The Burj Khalifa is probably one of the most famous skyscrapers you can build in Minecraft. With a total real-life height of 828 meters, you can imagine that when building this and scaling it down to fit Minecraft, it's not exactly going to be easy. Now, over the years, people have attempted to build this skyscraper, and because of that, there's different versions you can see online. You've got the one that I made a tutorial on, you've got the ones that these people have made on YouTube, you've got tons of submissions on Planet Minecraft, and you've even got a full-on 1:1 scale Burj Khalifa, which you can find in the Build Earth Minecraft project. Now, you may be wondering, out of all of these, which ones are the best? And that's what we're here to find out. So I took it upon myself to download every Burj Khalifa build I could get my hands on and place the ones that I thought were the best all in one map. So we've got 7 in total here, 2 bonus ones at the end which I thought would be good to include since they're pretty much just smaller versions. And before we get into the showcase, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and be sure to turn notifications on. More videos will be on the way, and yeah, let's get right into it. So first up, we have Burj Khalifa number 1. The tutorial for this build is in the description, but this was originally made by Wiggins. I'll also include a link to the Planet Minecraft page in the description as well. Now, this build looks really nice to me. The overall building is nice and thin. It has this nice tall and slender look to it, which fits in with the overall style of the building. You can see that there's a few balconies throughout the build, which is of course in line with how it is in real life. The use of sea lanterns also give it a nice touch because when it's dark, the building has a nice glow to it. Now for me, I feel like it would have been good if the balconies were slightly bigger, but I can see why it wasn't done purely because of how limited this build is with space. You also have these partings on the build, and the use of iron bars over the quartz really makes the separation of each section stand out. With the spire, it's pretty simple where naturally as you go up or higher on the build, it starts to get thinner and thinner until it's just a single block. But you will see with another build, this can be taken a step further to look a lot better. Oh yeah, and with the spire, there's some ladders on it, so just in case if you're ever in the mood to jump off, then you can go ahead and do that. Maybe not the best idea if you're on survival. In terms of the main blocks used for this overall build, it's quartz, grey stained glass and also spruce planks. Now the original blocks used for this build was ordinary glass, blue wall instead of quartz, and in my opinion I feel that the blocks used here give it more of an authentic look than the original. But considering that this was built over 10 years ago, I can see why a different choice of block wasn't used, and also it really depends on what texture pack you're using as well. But yeah, overall it's a really nice build. What I would say about this build is that the base could be slightly wider just so that it fits in with the real life style of the building. I feel like it's a bit too small here, and there isn't really much you can fit in the lower level balconies. Another thing you'll find with this building is that it has a curved design to it, which is pretty obvious, but if you take a look at the front of the building, the curve built here, it's good. There's no issues with it to be honest, but if we take a look at the back, it's a bit too right angled in my opinion, and I feel that these should be curved off a lot more. But again, overall, I do feel that this is a really nice build, and again, if you do want to build this, a link will be in the description for it. Moving on to the interior is very well built. Now, I'll admit, some parts are not the most detailed, but what I really like about the overall interior is that there's different elevators or ladders that lead up to different sections of the building, and to me, that's what really makes this building unique. So you've got a lift that leads up to the offices, one that leads up to the residence areas, a nightclub area, a spa, it's a pretty nice spa to be honest, an observation deck, and for each of these different elevators, they only take you up to certain floors, which is a really nice touch. So let's say you want to go to floor 12. You can only do that by taking the right set of ladders to get there. If you try to take a different one, it won't let you go any higher, or the doorway to enter that floor is simply closed. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's some really good interior design right there, especially for a building this thin. So guys, I definitely recommend that you download this map for the Burj Khalifa and check out the interior for yourselves. There's definitely a lot to explore, and yeah, let's move on to the next one. Burj Khalifa number 2. This was originally made by Zemo and is part of the World of Worlds map. If you haven't heard of or even seen this map before, then go check it out. It's a really cool world with a bunch of famous landmarks in it from different parts of the world, and yeah, go check that out. Now, with this build, the first thing that I want to say is that the base is different. It's not the typical triangle shaped base that you'll find with the other builds, which is of course in line with the real life building, but with this one, it's slightly slanted towards the right, which is different, but it's unique. Now, if we're judging these based on how they compare with the real life build, then this probably isn't the most accurate, and I would only say that from the base. But what I will say is that the other design features of this build really do make up for that, like the balconies for example. Now, some of you might say that these balconies are a bit too big, which is a fair point, but I do like the amount of space there is with them, because you can fit quite a lot of things here. Also, I think white stained glass will be a better choice for the railings rather than the iron bars, but this was probably made on an older version of Minecraft, and that's probably the reason why it wasn't used here. Another thing I like about this build is the curvature. Just looking around the building, you'll see that it's a lot more curved off than the previous version, and to me that's a nice touch. You'll also see that there's some entrances on this build. They look okay. They're not the best in my opinion, and you'll see better designed ones later on, but I think it's good that it was included. The floor pattern on the entrance is nice, and I like this glowstone lamp design as well. The entrance on the back of the building is also slightly bigger than the other two entrances, and you'll see with this one, it has a bit more design features on it. You might also notice that there's a small gap here between the entrance and the main building. That's how it is in real life, so there's some good attention to detail here. The main blocks used for this building was cyan, wool and glass. I'll admit it's not the best choice of blocks, and I feel the building would look a lot better in default Minecraft if a different set of blocks was used. But like I said before, this is probably made on an older version of Minecraft, and this building probably looks a lot better with a different texture pack and different set of shaders. Similar to the other build, iron bars was used to highlight the different partings of the sections, but rather than quartz being behind it, stone was used instead, which gives it more of a darker look in those areas, and in some ways it makes each section stand out a lot more. Finally, with the spire, as you'd expect, it goes thinner towards the top, but what I find with this one is that it's a bit wide from this section, and then it suddenly goes to a width of 1 block, which doesn't give it much of a gradual look like with the previous build. I don't think anyone would notice this at first glance because this building is still a good attempt of the Burj Khalifa, and it's something that can easily be adjusted. Overall, this building is nice, and moving on to the interior. Yeah, the interior's interesting, but in all seriousness guys, I do see good potential for a great interior to be made here. These pillars here and the floor pattern are a good starting point, and because there's more space with this build than the previous one, again there's a lot more potential. So guys, let me know what you thought about this build, leave your comments below, and yeah, let's check out the next one. Now moving on to my personal favourite, Burj Khalifa number 3. This is from the Aileron city map made by Sinogren. Yeah, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, this version was made by him, but the version that I have here has a different colour scheme to the one that was in that map, and I personally think that this one is better. So first of all, the base is nice and wide. Out of all the Burj Khalifas we have here, this one by far has the largest base, and I really like the look of it. You can actually fit some good furniture if you really wanted to in the lower levels. The building also has a good curvature around it. Also, the choice of blocks used here is really nice. You can see that there's light blue stained glass on the outer layer, but on the inside you have cyan terracotta as a skeleton of the build, and also terracotta as a flooring of the build. I feel like the way that this is designed with the glass on the outside and the skeleton of the structure on the inside, where you can see the pillars, it makes it look really unique, and it's definitely one of the reasons why it's one of my favourite. Balconies are also a good size. It's not too big and it's not too small. I just feel like it's just about right. What's interesting with the parting for each section is that the stone brick slabs are used instead of the iron bars, which we haven't seen on the other builds so far, but I feel like it really does suit the style of this building really well. The entrances are also built really nicely. They're attached as well, which is good, and it has that gap, which is realistic and is in line with the real life build. Now, even though this building does look nice, what I would say is that it could be a little bit taller, just to give it more of a thinner look. I'm assuming this was built on an older version of Minecraft with the old height limit, which is understandable, but if an updated version is ever made, it should be slightly taller just to give it more of a slimmer look than what it actually is. That's just me and my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think. But overall, it's a really nice build. And before I show you the interior, I just want to show you guys the spire. I would say it's not the best spire. I feel like it could be a lot more gradual as it goes towards the top, but it's okay. Now moving on to the interior, out of all these towers, this probably has one of the best interiors. When you walk into the building, the lobby area looks amazing. It's got a ton of space in it and the design of everything is good as well, especially with these redstone lamps everywhere. It's obviously not finished, which is why there's a lot of space in it, but it still looks good. Now this Burj Khalifa only has one set of ladders which leads up to all the floors in the building. It's a pretty simple design, but not as good as the first Burj Khalifa we looked at. But yeah, inside the building we've got standard hotel rooms. There's a garden area in it as well, which I found pretty cool. There's also an indoor pool as well. And there's also this water feature which goes across multiple floors, which I found looks pretty nice. But yeah, this is definitely a great build. Let me know what you guys think so far. And moving on to the next one. Burj Khalifa number 4. This is built by this person you can see on the screen right now from Planet Minecraft. But I believe he used a tutorial from Black Beanie Gaming because they look really similar. So if someone can confirm, do let me know. But anyways, with the design for this build, I would say it looks really good. If we was to combine Burj Khalifa number 1 and Burj Khalifa number 3, then you would have this one. The base of the build is also a good size. It's not too big and it's not too small. It's just about right. And the overall design of the build isn't too thin and it isn't too fat. Again, it's just about right, which is what I really like about this building. Also, the building curves off really nicely on all sides, which gives it more of an authentic look. The balconies are also a good size too. It would be nice if there was slightly more space in it, but I can see why it wasn't done, purely because of space constraints. Entrances are also a bit small compared to the other builds, but again, I can see why it was done in the way that it was. Now, with the blocks used here, it's actually an interesting combination. So you have the main glass block, which you can see throughout the whole build, and you actually have two glass blocks used here. So you have light blue stained glass, and you also have light grey stained glass, and they alternate between each other as the build progresses, which is very unique compared to the other builds. I personally like the way that this is done, and I feel like it makes the build look really good. If we also take a look at the parting for each section of the tower, this is different to the ones that we've seen in the other towers. So with this one, you've got stone brick slabs with the last build, but rather than being built on the outside, this one is actually indented into the building, which is interesting and it's actually a good design choice. What I really like about this build compared to the other builds is the spire. The spire is actually really nice and it's probably one of the best ones out of all the other builds. You can see here that it goes gradually thinner and thinner, but with the other ones, it just transitions from one block to 2 blocks. But with this one, it goes a step further by adding a few different blocks, which is a really nice touch. And the spire really does look good up close and also from far. And finally, there's no interior, but there's good potential for one being built. And now, coming to the last and final Burj Khalifa out of the main ones, Burj Khalifa number 5. This is also from the Aileron City map, but this was actually taken from an older version of that map. You can see that this is version 1 and the other one is version 2, but I thought I'd include it here anyways just because it would be interesting to talk about. Now, the design here is very similar to version 2. Everything from around the first balcony upwards is pretty much the same as the other build, but as we can all see here, the base is completely different. With this base used here, it's pretty basic, but I feel it should be wider at the bottom. The blocks and color scheme used on this build doesn't really suit the style of the build. I'm guessing the blocks that were used here was because of this being built on an older version of Minecraft, but if we compare this version to the other version, to Burj Khalifa number 3, then you can see how much of a difference the choice of blocks makes in a build. Just for those of you guys who are curious though, the blocks used here are glass blocks, cyan wool and also white wool for the flooring. With the entrances on this build, it's kind of basic. You've got 2 small doors near the front and then you've got the main entrance at the back. The lobby area here is pretty cool to be honest. You've got a reception desk here and also some redstone lamps on these pillars, and the rest of the interior is pretty much exactly the same as Burj Khalifa number 3. Now, what this does go to show is that color schemes of the build really do make a difference, and I feel like with the color scheme used here, it makes the building look a lot worse than what it actually is. And also, I don't know what these 2 buildings are. They're pretty much just empty with ladders just going up to the top. But yeah, moving on to the final 2. Burj Khalifa number 6. First of all, we can't really compare these 2 builds to the other builds purely because of the scale of the buildings are completely different. I would view these versions as ones that you can build in survival because of the reduced height. and less materials needed to build it. But moving on to the design, so it follows a similar design to that of Burj Khalifa number 5 and also Burj Khalifa number 3, with the glass on the outside and the main building blocks on the inside. I don't know about you guys, but I personally like this design style. With the blocks used, grey stained glass and also smooth stone slabs was used for this building, and the general design of the build I would say is fairly basic. You of course have the triangle shaped base, which is pretty much standard with these builds, but with the balconies you can see that the two at the back are at the same level and the one on the front is at a different level. So I'm sure you guys can tell right now that this shouldn't be the case. All the balconies should be at different levels, but yeah, it is what it is. This of course isn't what it's like on the real life building, but it still looks good. Also you can see from the build that there isn't really any entrances apart from the one at the back. When you go into the building, the interior is pretty basic, but I still do like the torches on these pillars. You of course have ladders that go up to the different floors. One more thing I want to mention before we move on to the final build is the way that these sections are done. Now each section of this build is pretty much separated with huge gaps inside the building. It's something different compared to all the other builds, but let me know what you guys think. Now moving on to the final version of the Burj Khalifa, which is Burj Khalifa number 7. I would say that the design of this version is better than number 6, but because of the blocks used, it doesn't look that nice as it should. I feel like it would look a lot better if there was a different color scheme going on, but let me know what you guys think. With the balconies, these are on different levels unlike with the other one, which is of course in line with the real life building, and I like the way that it's been done here. Separation on the different sections are done using light grey wool, and in case you're wondering, clay and stone were both the main building blocks that were used here. Considering that this was made over 10 years ago, it does look really good. I also like this mini fountain that was made here. It gives the overall build a really nice touch. In terms of the entrances, this build only has one entrance and it's at the back of the building, just like with the last build. Walking in, you've got a nice red carpet walkway, and yeah, pretty much everything else is empty. But unlike with the last build, these ladders take you all the way to the top of the spire, which is nice. And that's it for this showcase. Let me know which Burj Khalifa was your favourite, and also let me know what you thought about this type of video. I do plan on adding different types of videos to this channel. They're still going to be Minecraft related, so there's still going to be Minecraft videos, but rather than just me doing tutorials all the time, I plan on adding a few survival videos here and there. So we'll just see what happens and how that runs with the channel, and yeah. Also, I'm still going to be doing tutorials. They're not going to finish. I just think it would be good to have a few videos in between, just so that there's less of a gap when releasing videos. But anyways guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and this has been GSHD for the win, and I'll see you guys next time.